I wake up early, I sleep alone. I try to find love from a stranger on my phone. My vision blurry, so I forget. Dying to hold you, but you left me here for dead. How could I do what I've done if I'm in love? You know I did what I did, you loaded the gun. Don't wanna think about you anyway. I do it anyway. Yeah, didn't mean to do it every day. I do it anyway. I do it anyway. I do it anyway. Don't wanna think about you anyway. I do it anyway. I do it anyway. Messing with monsters up in my head. I told myself lying beside her in my bed. Paint over pictures you left behind. I'd punch the walls if it would make you change your mind. How could I do what I've done if I'm in love? You know I did what I did, you loaded the gun. And I don't wanna think about you anyway. I do it anyway. Yeah, didn't mean to do it every day. I do it anyway. I do it anyway. I do it anyway. Don't wanna think about you anyway. I do it anyway. How could I do what I've done if I'm in love? You know I did what I did, you loaded the gun. And I don't wanna think about you anyway. I do it anyway. Yeah, didn't mean to do it every day. I do it anyway. I do it anyway. I do it anyway. Don't wanna think about you anyway. I do it anyway. I do it anyway.
Hello, everybody. Did you miss me? How's it going, everybody? My name is Edsonas, and I am one of the co-hosts of everybody's favorite RGVFC podcast down in the valley, brought to you by Natural Beauty Spa. So this episode, I guess you can say, is a little bit unplanned, unorganized. I don't know how you want to call it, but the truth of the matter is, it was unexpected. I think that's the best word to describe this, because I don't think anybody, including myself, were expecting for the Toros to reveal, to put out the roster moves for 2020, which is a very awesome thing for the Toros to have done. It's something that rarely happened before. Usually it wasn't until the preseason where the Toros would announce who stayed from the year before. I know last year it was Coach Echeverry during preseason when we had him on the show. He gave us the exclusivity of the players who were going to stay, who were going to come back to the Toros for the 2019 season. This year, they didn't wait that long. It's the beginning, almost the middle of December. They've already announced who stays and who leaves for RGVFC Toros. So I want to thank everybody who's tuning in right now. Obviously, We've got Harry, our good friend from San Antonio FC, tuning in. Really appreciate it. He's a good friend of the podcast. He is also a podcaster as well for San Antonio FC stuff. So he mentions RGV is ahead of SA. Who would have ever thought of that? Let's not forget the first couple of years. Actually, that was the first year where San Antonio was ahead of RGVFC in the points. So it's not something that should be very surprising. And it kind of also helps, to be fair to San Antonio, it kind of helps the fact that the Toros still continue at this moment to have the same coach as a couple of years before. Whereas San Antonio, they spend most of these past few weeks trying to find a coach. So before they could find a coach, now they found it. Now they can start thinking about, okay, who stays and who goes based on this new coach's vision for this team. And he also says, hello, what's up, Edson and RGV Valley? What's going on, Harry? Thank you for tuning in right now. So guys, be sure to like this video if you haven't done so already. Be sure to share it with everybody on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Tinder, whatever floats your boat. Share it with your friends. Share it with fellow Toros fans. I really want to I don't want this to be a monologue. I want to have some sort of interaction with Toros fans out there. Johnny, welcome to the show. The Stampede president, welcome. Thank you for being on the show. Hope we can get some more Stampede members on. I really want to get some feedback over what's been announced today. I know there's already been some feedback on Twitter and on Facebook that I've already seen from Toros fans and even from Panamanian fans. But that might be a little bit too. Hold on. Some Panamanian fans out there on Twitter that I will be talking about as well. Ouch, Harry. He's bringing in peace, and you just can't bury the hatchet, Harry. How dare you? Shame. Anyways, all right. So let's get to the meat and bones of this show, and that is me talking a bunch of. No, I'm just kidding. So today, if you guys have not seen this on social media, which by the way, based on the poll, it seems a lot of the fans get their news from the internet, from the RGVFC Toros' social media, and not necessarily from local media. I mean, it's a trend, but that's for another show. We've talked about that ad nauseum. So, and frankly, today I don't think I've seen Channel 4, Channel 5, or any Twitter accounts from those local media channels even mention anything about this. But anyway, so the Toros today announced roster moves for the 2020 season. What do roster moves mean? Basically, it means, all right, who stays for next season, whose contracts ran out or expired, whose contracts were rejected, whose loans have expired as well. So let's start with the good news, and that is the Toros announced that they have officially kept 7 players from the 2019 season over for the 2020 season. I'm not even centered correctly. There we go. So, according to the press release by the Toros, we have kept 7 players from last season. Nico Lemoyne, who is usually tended to play as a winger. Kevin Rodriguez, midfielder, also played as a winger at the end. Defender Robert Coronado, El Turbo Coronado. Midfielder Isidro Chelín Martinez, a.k.a. Down in the Valleys MVP for 2019. Forward Juan Carlos Obregón. It's 5. Defender Andrew Samuels, your right back. And goalkeeper Ben Willis. So those 7 players from the roster from last year are staying over for the 2020 season. I want to get your thought. Let's get your thoughts first about this. So let's go ahead and go over to the chat. So Carson said, funny enough, RGVFC announced their roster decisions earlier after the 2020 season, which was, he says, was on December 2nd after the 2016 season. Johnny says, keep an eye out. Half of those guys are going to wind up in SAFC, then Phoenix. Seems legit. Hey, I think it'd be a pretty good bet between you and Harry, Johnny. So I want to get your thoughts on, what do you agree in these players that have been selected to stay for the 2020 season? Now, we have to keep in mind this. The first two players that I have mentioned, Nico Lemoyne and Kevin Rodriguez, they're Dynamo Academy players, right? Obviously, it's not a guarantee. If you're in the academy, it's not a guarantee that you're going to be staying for the Toros. And we'll talk about that once we get to those whose options we have declined. But those two actually, with Nico Lemoyne having had some experience in the youth national team, Kevin Rodriguez, getting a decent amount of minutes at the end of the season under Gerson Echeverry. I think those are pretty good decision to keep those two players so far. Obviously, so stoked to have Robert and Shalene back. I think those are two of the best players from last season for the Toros. You've also got Juan Carlos Obregon, who made his debut at the very end of the season and it seemed to bring that spark at those last 10-15 minutes of the matches. It's a spark that made a very good first impression for the Toros. He got his goal in his debut last season. So this is a kid that has a lot of future within the Dynamo system. And then of course you've got Ben Willis. Yeah, he didn't get a lot of minutes. Like, he got very few minutes last season because he had Nico Corti in front of him, and of course the Dynamo loanees like Michael Nelson and Tyler Derrick, getting more minutes than him. But when he was actually called up to play, the minutes that he did manage to play, he did a very decent job. You look at the match against Austin Bold. He had that outstanding save that got save of the week. Right after Nico Corti's red card. Without warming up a lot, and he had that. That save pretty much in the upper 90. So this kid has potential to be the next starting goalkeeper for RGVFC. So I'm glad we kept Ben Willis because he is such a good goalkeeper that I think he can give us a lot with a lot more minutes for the 2020 season. And of course, Andrew Samuels, who was a Dynamo draft pick from last season, he pretty much came in and stayed with the starting position at right back. Obviously, there's a lot of growth for him to still continue to go through, but he shows promise, he shows potential, and I think it's great for him to be back with the Toros for 2020 season. So let's go back, with the chat. Okay, this bot is kind of strange. I don't even think I added a bot to the chat. Anyways, like I said, this is a kind of last minute stream. So there's some wrinkles that we have to iron out going over for the 2020 season. Johnny, Ben Willis does show a lot of promise. Ben, not Joe Willis. He does show a lot of promise, and I think overall these 7 players that we have decided to sign on for the next season, I think it's a good decision from whoever took this decision, whether it's Gerson Echeverry, Nick Calva, Matt Jordan, Tab Ramos. It's a good decision. Now, moving on from that, let's go over to the list of players that the club decided to decline their contract options. And that is midfielder Andres Arcila, midfielder Hector Copete, goalkeeper Nico Corti, defender Connor Donovan, midfielder Brad Dunwell, midfielder Romilio Hernandez, defender Sergio Mena, and defender Carlos Viveros. Those 8 players, they decided to not renew, they declined their contract options. So let me go down this list and give you my thoughts on this. And we will let you in the chat. I'll go back, read the chat, see what y'all think about this. But like I said, I do want to get y'all's opinions about this. I know, Johnny, you've been very participative as well. But I want to get an idea what the Toros fans think about this, because this is pretty exciting, and it's very important information going into the 2020 season. And I would like to see more fans kind of be more involved with the team outside of the 90 minutes during the season, especially home games. I want to see some more involvement with opinions on social media. Of course, with friends, family. I don't know, but I would like to see more involvement from the fans. So, first player on the list, Andres Arcila. Frankly, this is a player that Gerson Echeverry knows from his time at Seton Hall Soccer. It's a player that had been for a while kind of linked with the club, but wasn't really officially given a contract. Was given a contract this past season in 2019. Didn't get a lot of minutes with the Toros. When he did get minutes, I know the biggest one was, hold on. I know he played against San Antonio FC at San Antonio, and he had to be subbed out because of Fuenmayor going full Fuenmayor, pretty much. So he had to be sacrificed. But let's look at his stats right here for Andres Arcila. Why is the USL Championship? Oh, there we go. Okay. So Andres Arcila in total, he played 347 minutes, played 8 games, 4 starts, and in the 4 games he was subbed off. So didn't really get a lot of minutes. He scored some bangers, obviously. He scored 2 goals. So he showed promise with the team. Just because in the beginning he had Wilmer Cabrera Jr. Being the starter in that position, and then at the end the Toros decided to go more for a 2 striker formation rather than a striker and a center attacking midfielder. Didn't really get to see a lot of minutes through there. At the end, I'm guessing there's a new vision by Gerson Echeverry going on into 2020. Didn't fit in that vision. Andres Arcila didn't fit in that vision for 2020, and they decided to cut him. Like I said, I think he showed promise, but I don't know. Didn't get a lot of minutes. But I feel like maybe he should have been given one more year to kind of fight for that position. Now that they don't have Wilmer Cabrera Jr. Taking that position. Let him fight for a spot, but the guys, Gerson, Jordan, Calba, and Tab Ramos, they're the ones that make the decisions, not me. All I have is a podcast. All I have is a microphone. All right. So He scored, yes, and I believe the other one was who did he score? Because it was at home. It was the one where que le hizo de sombrerito, like right over the attacker's head. Let me see. Let me look at Transfer Market then, because there we go. So Transfer Market says that he scored a goal against the Switchbacks, like you said, and against Reno at home. So he scored against Reno in their 2-1 loss, and then the next week he scored that free kick against the Switchbacks in that 3-3 tie, and then the game after, he played against San Antonio and got subbed off in the 35th minute because of Fuenmayor's dumb red card, and then from then on, it was the next 2 games against El Paso and against Austin, he was on the bench, and then from then on, he didn't even appear in the 18. In total, the only times that Andres Arcila came up for at least the bench against Tacoma Defiance, where he started, forgive me. He played 24 minutes against Tacoma Defiance. He played 45 against Fresno, and those are in the first 2 weeks. Week 10, he played 12 minutes against Phoenix Rising. Week 11, he played 25 minutes against LA Galaxy 2. He was on the bench against the Switchbacks when they played him at home back in June. And then he played 60 minutes against Austin Bold when they lost at home to the Bold. And then Sacramento on the bench, Las Vegas on the bench, started against Reno where he scored the goal, started against the Switchbacks where he scored the goal, started against San Antonio where he scored the goal, on the bench in El Paso, on the bench, versus at home versus El Paso, he was on the bench, and then at Austin, he was on the bench as well. So really not a lot of minutes or opportunities to kind of show what he had. So yeah, pretty much it. How's it going, Jake? Greetings to have you on here. So Johnny says Fuenmayor should be banned from playing with the Toros. So here's the funny thing, Johnny, about Fuenmayor. Because the Dynamo fans have him like right here. He's like, oh, he's the future of the Dynamo center back position. They have him in such a high level, and I'm here like, are you kidding me? Like that match against Minnesota United, where he had like 2 goal line clearances. I'm like, really? Where was this against the Toros? Why were you making stupid mistakes with the Toros? And when you come back with the first team, you play your heart out. Like, that shows a lack of professionalism by the player. I have to be honest. It's a lack of professionalism. And I don't know if it's because they're orders from the first team, or it's just that players like Fuenmayor and Ronaldo Peña, like, if they're not playing with the first team, you know what? I'm not going to give them my 100%. And the only one that gets hurt in this process is Gerson Echeverry and the RGVFC Toro squad. Now you're getting me all riled up, Johnny. Thank you very much. I promised myself I was not going to get riled up. But lo and behold, I'm getting riled up. Thank you, Johnny. All right. So next on the list who wasn't re-signed, Hector Copete. Really didn't see any minutes or very few minutes from him. I know he was injured throughout most of the season. He was out. I think he had surgery or something like that. So we really didn't see a lot. If any, he only played 2 games with a total of 86 minutes. So not a lot from him. I think that's a player that I guess we can say, okay, it's a good decision to not keep him around for season 2020. Excuse me. Yeah, don't drink Coke before you're going to talk a lot. Third on the list, Nico Corti. Is it a surprise? No, it's not. And it has nothing to do with his talent, because Nico showed since 2018 when he came onto the team. When he came to the team in 2018, he was a good goalkeeper for the most part. Sure, he had some mistakes. He had some games where things didn't go well for him. But for the most part, he was a very reliable keeper for the Toros. Compared to other keepers we've had in the past, Mark Sanchez. Oh wait, no, not Mark Sanchez. Anyways, back in 2017, he was reliable, right? But the problem is, and I keep reminding that the way the Dynamo planned this whole idea of the roster is you're being given 2, maximum 3 years to prove yourself that you're good enough to get an MLS contract. Here's the thing, though. Right now, Nico just finished his 2nd year, right? In front of him, he's got Michael Nelson. But in front of Michael Nelson, right now the Dynamo are looking for another goalkeeper to be the starter. So Michael Nelson will be the backup for whoever this goalkeeper is that they're being searched for. Thank you, Lester Gresh, for that piece of information. So unless Nico Corti was going to be given a Dynamo contract for an MLS contract, there really was no, in the eyes of Matt Jordan, there really was no way he was going to be able to stay in a USL contract for a 3rd year. So, I mean, it sucks for Nico. I thought maybe Nico could have enough to be a 3rd goalkeeper for the Houston Dynamo. But, especially after they sent Joe Willis to Nashville and they released Tyler Derrick. I thought that would have been the perfect opportunity to have Nico Corti as the 3rd string goalkeeper for the Dynamo. But I guess Matt Jordan has a different idea. So right now, as of now, Nico Corti, his options declined and is no longer a Toro. Next on the list, Connor Donovan. He's another veteran. Trying to remember. He came in. He's another 2nd-year veteran because he came in 2017 or 2018 as well, along with Kyle Adams, along with Nico. He was given, after his first year, he was given an MLS contract with the Houston Dynamo. Didn't really pan out, and Dynamo released him, but they gave him another USL contract for 2019. Now it has been announced that Connor Donovan is not going to be renewed, and he's not going to be a Toro. It's a shame. He brought on a lot of experience. I think him and Kyle Adams together in the center back position was a really good center back pairing compared to what we've had before. But I guess we go back to the same thing. If you don't show enough to make it to the Dynamo, then even if you're really good at the USL level, they're not going to keep you around. And that really is a shame for Connor Donovan. He did a lot for the Toros, but we all know that the Dynamo reigns over this squad. So let's go back with the chat. Okay. All right. Next on the list, you have Brad Dunwell. Brad Dunwell was another super draft pick from the Houston Dynamo from last year. He came, if I'm not mistaken, from Wake Forest. And Wake Forest is a program that came in with a good reputation following their previous year, and Brad Dunwell as well. But he wasn't really given minutes. with the Toros. Because in front of him you had Chalin, Eric Bird when he was loaned down, and he had as well Romilio Hernandez in front of him. So he was like a third stringer in this lineup for the Toros. According to the USL Championship website, Brad Dunwell played a grand total of 334 minutes, 5 games being played for the Toros. Let me see if I can find. Okay, so Transfer Market says the games that he played with the Toros are, yeah, right here. All right. He played the first 3 weeks. He played against Tacoma Defiance and that loss. He played against Fresno at home when they lost 2-0. He played against El Paso when they tied 2-2 over there in El Paso. He played against San Antonio when they won 3-1. He played 74 minutes. No, he played 19 minutes there. He came in as a sub. So he played the full 90 in the first 2 weeks, 71 minutes in the third week, 19 minutes against San Antonio in the fourth week, and then played 64 minutes against Reno at Reno when they lost 4-0 in that match. Now, here's the thing, though. If you look at this, the games that he played, it was in most of them were games where the team just wasn't carbureting. Obviously, the first couple of matches, they're barely getting to know each other. Against Tacoma Defiance, it was a game that should have been won. I'm going to be frank, it should have been won. Against Fresno was a decent team. RIP, press F on the chat to pay respects for Fresno FC. Against El Paso, it was with grit that they got that tie. Thanks to Romilio's golazo and then Chuy Enriquez as well. San Antonio, 3-1 win. Sorry, Harry. And then Reno was like, what in the world happened against Reno? It was like, really? Like 4-0. And from then on, he only appeared 3 times on the bench. Against San Antonio in San Antonio. Against the Roughnecks when they lost at home 1-0. And at Fresno when they lost 5-0. Other than that, he was rarely in the squad in the 18. So this is a player that I guess you can say, well, yeah, I guess he did improve his worth in the USL Championship level. And it's time to move on. Find maybe a USL League One team or whatever. But I guess he just doesn't fit the system. Just doesn't fit the system. And I think it's a right decision to let Brad Dunwell go. Romilio Hernandez next on the list. Oof. I think Romilio Hernandez was a decent midfielder along with Chalin. But when you had Eric Bird coming down, he was kind of relegated to being on the bench or up on the stands, especially at the level that Eric Bird was playing. And of course, if I'm not mistaken, Romilio Hernandez came in at the end of the 2018 season. He had the 2019 season, of course, to prove his worth. I don't know what you guys think. I'm kind of sad to see Romilio Hernandez go, to be honest. Personal opinion, obviously. So Harry asked a question. He says, so my question is, why not keep some of these vets for experience like Real Monarchs? That's my concern for RGV and just saying, hey, you've got 2-3 years. Was hoping to see change a little with the new coach. RIP Foxes. Harry, the problem is that Matt Jordan has that plan And even if you don't agree with it, that's what needs to be done. Because Matt Jordan himself has said it with Glenn Davis. So that's his plan. This wasn't something that Wilmer came up with, or is this something that Wilmer implemented? This is Matt Jordan. This is the Matt Jordan mentality on the way they're running RGV. I think there's been a lot of examples where it proves that veteranship, along with young guys to develop, helps a lot more to develop these young guys and be more competitive in whatever tournament you're playing with. But Matt Jordan doesn't see it that way. Matt Jordan wants to do things the New York Red Bulls 2 way. But you have to realize that right now the Dynamo Academy is still a baby in the aspect that Paul Holliker just barely came in and started implementing his changes. For those changes to make full effect, all the way to, let's say, the age group that's ready to make the jump to professional level, it's going to take a while, maybe at least another 2 years. So we're not going to see the full benefits that'll benefit the Toros for us to say, okay, we have enough talented players to fill in a squad with what bunch of young guys, just like New York Red Bulls did back in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it 2016? I don't remember. Was it 2016? Anyways, but the point is that right now we don't have the amount of talent in the Dynamo Academy to sustain ourselves, to sustain the Toros, to be competitive. And Matt Jordan, I guess, doesn't want to see that. We have a lot of good players. We have a lot of good veterans throughout these years that could have been very beneficial for this team. Not only that, but the consistency of not having to refresh your squad every year, every 2 years, and have to start from scratch all over again. Because now you have once again a bunch of guys right out of college that you have to transition them from the NCAA way of playing to the USL professional way of playing. And that's wasted time. If you want to be competitive, you're wasting a couple of weeks or half a season to get them accustomed to the professional level, to get them get some chemistry, and you find yourself having to chase at the very end. And I think we've seen that brings no results, because yes, the Toros finished strong, but by the time they finish strong, it's already too late to salvage a playoff spot. So yes, I do want more veteranship in our rosters. Not only players that have been with the Toros for a while, but even USL veterans that know how the league works, that have been in playoffs before, but then even have won the USL Cup before. You look at Real Monarchs, and I think they've had like 2 players. I think one of them was Noah Powder, if I'm not mistaken, that had won the championship with New York Red Bulls. Am I right? I think I saw that on the Excel sheet that I wanted to present to Matt Jordan, the Dynamo Fans for Change group meeting, but he wasn't there. Yeah, he was busy doing a bunch of stuff for the re-entry drafts. He wasn't able to. I would have loved to shown him that kind of stuff. But anyways, we go back, with Romilio. I said, I wish we could have kept him a little bit more. I think he showed some potential, at least for a backup for this team. Anyways, next on the list, you've got Sergio Mena and Carlos Viveros. I'm not going to talk much about them. because they didn't see a lot of minutes. And when they did show up, ooh, boy. Wow. Like shuddering kind of thing. Of course, they're young. They barely were coming up from Brazos Valley Cavalry from League 2. But those games that they played, like, holy crap. I think it was, who was it? I think it was Viveros. When we played against Real Monarchs, Carlos Viveros was a starter for the Toros for that match. And all right, here it is. Let me tell you right now. Right now. Yeah, because he only played one match with the Toros, and that was against Reno. In Reno, he played the 90 minutes, Viveros. And it was when we lost 4-0. We were like, it was a mess. Why? Because, no, actually it wasn't. Interesting. I think it was, yeah, okay. So that's what it was. It was because it was a midweek game, and Coach Echeverry wanted to kind of switch the roster around so that way players wouldn't get fatigued. So he brought in a bunch of backups and reserves against Reno FC, and he looked very lost out there. But the other one was Sergio Mena. Sergio Mena, like, I feel bad. Like, honestly, I feel bad for the kid. Because, you know, you're being given the opportunity to play. He played 2 matches against with the Toros. He played for 25 minutes against Las Vegas Lights in week 17 when they won 5-2 at home. But then he came he played as a starter against Real Monarchs away, that 5-3 loss. Oh boy, like, he looked like way out of position. Like, there was no chemistry, there was no communication between the center backs and Sergio Mena. It got to the point where at the 38th minute, Coach Echeverry is like, you know what, I've had enough. You're out, and brought in Robert Coronado. Like, that was how not great Sergio Mena's performance was. And from that match on, only against Fresno, when they lost 5-0, which was another one of those matches where he had to switch the roster around because of fatigue. And he only came out of the bench even in that match. Other than that, he never came out in the 18. So I guess it was the player that wasn't ready for the USL Championship. Don't know if he's going to go back with Brazos Valley Cavalry. I mean, the kid is only 19, so he may have a chance with the Cavalry still. But USL Championship level, he wasn't ready. It reminds me of that video clip from, who was it? What's his face? Kevin Hart. No, he wasn't ready. Like I said, I feel bad for the guy. And I don't like blasting. Like, you see, I blast a lot some players, but I don't like doing it. But it's just things that have to be said. And that match against Real Monarchs, like, holy, like, I grew gray hairs that game. So with those last two players, Sergio Mena, Carlos Viveros, I think really good idea to not renew them. They're not ready for the USL Championship. Give them more time in the lower leagues. Then maybe in the future, once they're ready, once they have more minutes under their belt, give them another shot in the USL Championship. You know, they might get better. Might give them, learn more things that they lacked at this time. But you never know, how good they are until you put in a position where you have to show your worth. When you're outside of that level of comfort. So now you know what you lack, what you need to focus on. All right, keep on developing, keep on working on that. You're gonna get your redemption later on. Just keep on proving your worth. That's all I say about these guys. Just keep on working, keep on proving your worth. Your redemption will come sooner or later. If you show hard work to improve what you need to improve, you'll be given an opportunity sooner or later. But we've all got to put in our grain of salt in this kind of thing. All right. So loans. We had 2 loans this year. Shane Beckford, who came in, I think it was like August of this year, and Carlos Small. The loans for those 2 players have expired following this past season. Doesn't look like they're going to be renewed so far. Shane Beckford, I don't know, didn't really see a lot of him. I think I saw a lot more from Juan Carlos Obregón for the minutes that he was put in this team. But Carlos Small was a player that, he had his off moments, but when he was on his A game, the man could score goals. This is a player that is currently the record holder for the amount of goals scored in an RGVFC jersey in all of its short history. So the man has proven to score goals. But this was his second year. And I guess the Dynamo, he's not ready for the Dynamo. Even though he scored a lot, I don't know what part of Carlos Small that we don't see out there on the pitch he may be lacking, that the Dynamo say, you know what, we're not going to renew him, or we're not going to pursue an offer to buy him from Árabe Unido because we see MLS potential in him. And he's another player that it sucks that we have to let him go. Like, this is a killer. This is a goal-scoring killer for the Toros. And now we're going to have to go back and find another striker and hope that he can fit in the system. But hey, Matt Jordan's the boss. And if he says jump, I have to say, or not necessarily but how high, kind of thing. I don't want to see Carlos Small go, but it has to. It has to happen. It sucks. It sucks as a Toros fan. But let me know what you guys think about anything that we've been talking about. So, next on the list, you've had your 8 players that are out of contract for the 2019 season. Kyle Adams, David Cabrera, Robert Castellanos, Jesus Enriquez, Victor Garza, Zach Jackson, Camilo Monroy, Aldo Quintanilla. Obviously, Victor Garza is a player, is a homegrown player. He's from Edinburgh. It's a shame that injuries kind of kept him out of the lineup. I really would have wanted to see more from Victor Garza, but those pesky injuries never let him. Kyle Adams, second year player. The partnership, like I said, with him and Connor Donovan, pretty good. But his contract has run out, his 2-year contract. David Cabrera, son of former Houston Dynamo head coach Wilmer Cabrera. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, like I said, apparently when Wilmer Cabrera was sacked, there was I think it was the Dynamo, made a statement saying that David Cabrera's status with the Toros was independent of Wilmer Cabrera's status as head coach or not being head coach for the Houston Dynamo. But he's not renewed. Robert Castellanos is another second-year player. Managed to get some starter minutes for a while, and got back to being a backup for the Toros. I really want him back just to have some depth. I think he's proven depth. That when the situation arises to need him for a starter position, I think he could do well. He's young, still has a couple of things to learn, but the guy has potential. He's gone, or his contract ran out. Chuy Enriquez, I think this is the only one from this list where I can safely say he's not coming back. There are not going to be no negotiations. Based on his Instagram post after the end of the season, where he basically, said goodbye. He said goodbye to the Valley. He said goodbye to the fans. It doesn't look like he's going to negotiate with the Dynamo. He's probably not going to negotiate with the Toros. Chuy Enriquez was on his way to be RGVFC legend. Why? He was a player that made sure that everybody was, hey, come on, let's do this. He was hyping up the rest of the players. He made sure, he sweated the shirt. He defended the shirt. He defended the crest like if it was his family. Like, when the team lost, it hurt him. You could see that it hurt. Like, he cared about this team. He specifically hated San Antonio outside of those 90 minutes. Like, he was happy when we would beat San Antonio. He was mad that we would lose to San Antonio. He gave his heart out every time for this team, for this club. But now he's not coming back, apparently. We go back to this whole thing about these 2-3 years is like, when are we going to have an identity? When is the fans going to form some sort of an identity based on the type of players that we have? We can't form an identity because by the time we know it, the players that we're getting used to, care for, to become, legends, they're gone. Happened to Charlie Ward. Happened to Chuy. Happened to Todd Warden. Kyle Murphy. The list goes on. Aldo Quintanilla out with an injury the whole season. Looks like he was pretty much ready to start, doing some regular soccer work, but didn't come in a good time. Pretty much at the end of the season. Excuse me. Pretty much at the end of the season. Camilo Monroy came back for a second stint with the Toros after, I believe, 2016. Didn't really see much out of him. You saw some sort of gate or like you saw a little bit of his talent sometimes, but he wasn't really consistent for Jerson Echeverry's eyes, and he lost his spot. He lost the spot at the end of the season. If you look, let's see, Camilo Monroy. Okay, doesn't come out anyway in transfer market. But anyway, he wasn't really given a lot of minutes with the Toros, and this was a second try, and he didn't manage, even with Malik Foster leaving the Toros for another Costa Rican team. We had the opportunity to clinch that starting position. He didn't prove to Gerson Echeverry that he deserved that starting position. I mean, Kevin Rodriguez ended up keeping that position. And then Juan Carlos Obregón showing that, hey, I can be a good backup to whoever is the starter in that position. Camilo Monroy just kept on being relegated and relegated and relegated and relegated. So it wasn't going to be a good decision to keep him for another year. This is a player that can say, yeah, good idea, not renew him for the next coming season. Zach Jackson, it was his first year with the Toros. Started off shaky. I know against LA Galaxy 2. At LA Galaxy 2, it was like the whole team. I mean, this is another one of those games where it was like you had a bunch of bench and reserves playing at the same time. There wasn't enough chemistry to kind of get a common knowledge of, all right, he's going to be here at this time. Like, I know where everybody's going to be, right? So kind of looked very shaky out there. At the end of the season, he started being, the minutes he got, he looked like he was getting a lot more composed, a lot more confident in whenever he played as a right back when Andrew Samuels wasn't able to play for X or Y reason. But he's not, his contract has run out for next season. However, according to the club, for a number of these players, doesn't specify who, obviously, because there's still conversations with the club about returning in 2020. So there are negotiations happening for some of these players to return to the Toros for 2020. Now, who could it be? Like I said, we don't know. Who would you like to see of this list of eight players? Who would you like to see back for the Toros? Not including Chuy Enriquez, because sadly, like I said, looks like he's not coming back for the Toros for X and Y reason. And look at the chat. Harry. No, that is not going to happen. Chewy to SA is what you're saying. No, that is not going to happen, and I will be a sad panda if that happens, like it did with Charlie Ward. One time I can pass it, the second legend to go to San Antonio, I don't think I can take it. Honestly, I don't think I'd be able to take it. So, guys, that was pretty much it as far as the Toros is concerned with this announcement. Be sure to talk about it on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Talk about it. Share the video. Share the articles that have been talking about this. The press release from the Toros. Just keep talking RGV during this offseason. I know it's hard. I know there's not a lot to talk about. But the thing about it is, if we want the media to take time out of their busy schedule to cover this team, there has to be some sort of demand for it. And if nobody talks about it in social media, then they're going to say, well, I guess nobody's interested in the Toros. Why should I spend money out of my budget to cover a team that nobody cares about? And that's the way they see it. So it's our part. We have to do our part as well as fans if we want to see some coverage. I put up a poll saying, where do you get your Toros information? Almost everybody said either the team's social media or just the internet in general. Very few people say, "Oh, I got it from the local broadcasts." Why? Well, because they're not putting it out there. Why are they not putting it out there? Because very few people continuously talk about it outside of the 90 minutes at HEB Park, and that's just the way it is. We need more people to be more involved throughout the days, as best as you can. Just talk about the Toros, mention the players, talk about what you see. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Use their hashtags. Hashtag We Are Toros, hashtag Somos Toros, hashtag Píntate Naranja, whatever. As long as it's hashtag RGVFC, mention RGVFC. But the more involvement they see from the fans, the more they're going to see, hey, you know what? I guess people do want to talk about the Toros. I mean, the Toros aren't playing and people are still talking about them. People are getting involved with this team. So, that's the homework I'm putting out for you all out there. RCN7 says, players have to have the promise or the chance to be promoted to the big club. They want the chance to battle it out for a spot. They're not going to want to be staying at the USL team forever. You do have a point about the big club. But here's the thing, though. The Dynamo has history of not knowing how to use their signings. What do I mean by that? They signed him to an MLS contract. Okay, yippity yay. Good for the player. Good for the Dynamo, right? But what happens? Let's take the 2017 season, for example. In 2017, you had Eric Bird signed, you had Charlie Ward signed, you had George Malky signed, you had there's a couple other players that were signed to MLS contracts. I think it was like five USL players from this 2016 season were signed to an MLS contract. But what happened? They never played. Not even for Open Cup. They barely got minutes in the Dynamo Charities Cup against Cruz Azul. And what happened? Oh, here's the kicker. They weren't even allowed to be loaned down to the Toros. And this is firsthand information that I'm about to say. These players wanted an opportunity to at least, if they were not going to be played with the Dynamo, at least be given the opportunity to return to the Toros. But the Dynamo didn't even allow them that. A couple of these players ended up just retiring. Charlie Ward ended up going with San Antonio because they were offering him minutes. And they didn't even give him minutes either. What happened? He went with the Ottawa Fury. One of their best players last season. And now what happened? Ottawa Fury's going down. They have been disenfranchised. They have been replaced by the Miami FC. Where is he going to go now? We don't know. But the thing about it is, what good is an MLS contract if you're not going to be getting any minutes? If you're not getting game time, you're going to find yourself rusty. And you're going to lose whatever progress you had accumulated up to that point because you're not getting any match time. So at the end, most of these players, what they end up doing is say, you know what? Even if I have to go back to the USL, but at least I'm getting consistent amount of minutes down there in the second division. At the end of the day, they want minutes. Yes, they would like an opportunity to prove that they can be in first division. But if you realize for X or Y reason, hey, you know what? I guess I don't have what it takes to be in the first division. Either one of the two things. Either hopefully some other MLS team like FC Cincinnati, who was in the lower ends of the table, decide to give him a chance in the re-entry draft or a free agency, you name it. Or a USL team comes and picks me up, or retire. I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at, RCN. And I'm not trying to bash you. I'm not trying to say you're wrong, or anything like that. Like, I really appreciate your feedback. And I don't think you're wrong. Like I said, I think you have a very valid point that these players want the opportunity to battle it out for the big club. That's what they're here for in the Toros. They're given the opportunity. Okay, if you do good in the Toros, you have an opportunity to make it to the MLS. But at the end of the day, even if you do make it to MLS and you're not given minutes at all, you're going to want to look for something else where that, hey, at least I'm getting some minutes for me to continue to my development. That's the way I see it. I don't know what you guys think, everybody else in the chat, but that's the way I see it. So, anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much going to be it for today. It is going to be 8:30 at this moment. So, like I said, I really appreciate you guys coming in at the very last minute on the show to discuss these movements from the Toros. Don't expect a lot of more news for the rest of the year because I don't think any player signings will be made until the Super Draft, until preseason kind of thing, or before preseason kind of thing, obviously. But officialization usually isn't done until until the last week of preseason, because it's pretty much preseason is pretty much like a tryout to see who's going to get the contract and who isn't. So don't expect a lot of official news till next season or till next year. Hey, I could be surprised. I said that roster moves weren't going to be announced until January, because it felt like it was going to be like that. And hey, they surprised me. They did it in December. Yes. So hopefully there's going to be a surprise, but I highly doubt it. But until then, there are a couple of things that are going to be happening. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks. I don't want to say anything until it's officialized, like say exactly what's happening. But there is a person that I would like to have on the show that is very important to how the Toros and the system is going to be running, and I would like to have him on the show and kind of get him to see the Toros fans' point of view as well. That this isn't just about the Dynamo, that there's people that care about the Toros and want to see them, like you guys say, we want playoffs out of this team. We don't want it to be just about development. We want this team to be competitive. We want this team to be successful in a way that they at least make it to playoffs. And I think a couple of teams in the USL have shown that both are not mutually exclusive. So if it's ever officialized, I will let you all know. Also, there are plans in a collaborative effort between the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable with Harry, with the Seriously Local podcast from El Paso, and the Three Birds Boldcast from Austin to do a Copa Tejas themed episode of their respective podcasts, or maybe even a spin-off podcast specifically for Copa Tejas. Those kind of details have not been 100% ironed out, but there are plans to have that kind of thing. We want Copa Tejas to grow, for the continue growing for the next couple of years. I think it showed a really good potential. We saw a couple of great games between Texas teams in the last season. So if we can make it better, and have some feedback, what we liked, what we didn't like, what could be improved in the layout of Copa Tejas, I think that is a huge plus for all four teams, for all four fan bases. So keep tuning about that as well. Now, also, we do have a new website, ditvpodcast.com. There's also going to be some news there in the future that will be officialized, hopefully by New Year's. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to check out, obviously, the website, ditvpodcast.com. Follow us on all our social media. We got Facebook, Down in the RGV, Twitter, @Down in the RGV, and Instagram, @Down in the RGV as well. Follow us on all our social medias. We tend to post, questions, our thoughts, hot takes, news around the USL as well. So we would like your feedback through those portals as well. But honestly, really appreciate all of y'all's support for this show. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Like I said at the last minute, really appreciate it. On behalf of Jacob Young, of Ray Silva of South Texas Border Sports, and of course of Cesar Cortez, we thank you all. Want to wish you all happy holidays, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever holiday that you celebrate in this month of December. Wish you all well. Be safe out there. Don't drink and drive. If you drink, have a designated driver, please. At least I want to see everybody, but at least make it to 2020. Don't do stupid stuff. Like, honestly, like, I implore you, do not do drunk driving. Be safe out there. Enjoy your holidays. Happy New Year. Happy 2020. Of course, if I don't see you until then. May all of your dreams and wishes and your prepositions get fulfilled. And we hope to be back stronger than ever for the 2020 season. And hopefully we can see some good changes in the way the tours are being handled by the Houston Dynamo starting in 2020. Appreciate all of y'all support. We'll see each other on the next one. Take care.